Welcome to the Rock Class Videos Pebbles edition. This is Learning Your Bible Facts with Miss Ronda.
Hi kiddos! Welcome back for another Bible Fact video. I am so excited to be with you today. I hope you're excited too to learn all these wonderful Bible facts because they help us get to know our Bible even better. Well, today our Bible fact is a time for everything. And this was written by one of those three kings of the United Kingdom. You remember Saul, David, and Solomon? Well, this was written by King Solomon. And you know, King Solomon was the wisest man to ever live. He asked God for wisdom, and God gave him wisdom. You know, with that wisdom, he shares lots of things through his books that we need to know. And this is one of them. There's a time for everything. So let's find out what there's a time for. There's a time to be born and a time to die. You know, we're always excited when someone's born, and we're sad when someone dies. But God, through Solomon, tells us there's a time to be born and a time to die. There is a time to plant and a time to harvest. You know, you go out and you plant seeds. You hope you're going to get some sort of fruit or vegetable or maybe even flowers from those seeds. Well, when they grow up and they give you their vegetable or their fruit or their flower, you get to go out and pick them. That's called harvesting. So there's a time to plant and a time to harvest. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. I think about bugs. Ooh, summertime's coming, and around here we have horrible mosquitoes. And so we're always swatting at them. You know, that's our time to kill bugs. We kill those mosquitoes. I don't want them to bite me. And then there's a time to heal. If someone is sick, they need to go to the doctor. Or maybe you're not feeling good. You just need to get some rest and mom and dad take good care of you until you're all better. That's the time to heal. So there's a time to kill and a time to heal. There's a time to build and a time to break. You know, sometimes we love to build big old buildings with our building blocks. And sometimes we have to put those building blocks away. And we have to break it down and put it back in the box and put it away for another time. And then there'll be another time for us to build and then break. And there's a time to weep and a time to laugh. You know, sometimes things are just funny. And so we laugh. We might have a day full of giggles. And then sometimes things are sad, and we might have a day full of weeping. It's a time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. Mourning means to be sad about something. That little boy in that picture there, he's sad because he dropped his ice cream cone. That would make me sad. And so he's mourning. He's sad. And then there's times that things are so exciting and so happy, and we get so excited we like dance a jig. We're so excited. So there's a time to mourn and a time to dance. There's a time to cast stones and a time to gather. This little girl here is throwing stones away. Have you ever had to clean out a garden or maybe clean out some dirt so you could plant some grass? You pull out all those stones, you cast them out. But then you might be putting in a rock garden, and so you go around and you gather up your stones to make your rock garden all pretty. And so there's a time to cast stones and a time to gather stones. There's a time to embrace and a time not to embrace. You know, if you know them really well, you might want to give them a hug. But if you're just getting to know somebody, you might want to give them a handshake. There's a time to embrace and a time not to embrace. There's a time to seek and a time to lose. Well, if you lost something important, you might have to seek and seek and seek and seek and seek and seek until you find it because it's very, very important. But if it's something that's really not all that important and you've looked and looked and looked and you can't find it, you might have to accept the fact that it is lost. There's a time to seek and a time to lose. There's a time to keep and a time to toss. You know, when you get given a gift, that's a good time to keep it. But if you're cleaning out the garage or you're cleaning out trash or stuff, that's the time to toss it. And God, through Solomon, tells us there's a time to keep and a time to toss. There's a time to tear and a time to sew. She's tearing up some sort of confetti paper, and this person here is sewing. And so there's a time to tear and a time to sew. There's a time to be silent, shh, and a time to speak. You know, sometimes I'm sure if you're in school, you've heard the teacher say, put your quiet finger up, shh, or catch a bubble. You know, that's the time your teacher needs you to be silent because you are getting ready to get some very important information. But then there's a time to speak. I'm sure your teachers have said, okay, y'all, talk amongst yourself. And that's your time to visit and talk about things. But even moms and dads may tell you, hey, shh, it's time for us to talk. You have to be quiet. Shh, now's not the time. Or, sure, go ahead and talk to me. What do you have to say? There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. There's a time to love and a time to hate. This love means loving everybody. You know, you love your family, you love, maybe you love a specific type of food, or you love to go somewhere, or you love to do something. There's a time for love, but there's a time for hate. I think about sin there. We don't ever want to do something that would make God sad. We can hate the sin, but we can love the sinner. You know, God doesn't want us to sin. God doesn't like sin. And so we hate the sin, but we love the sinners. And there's a time for war and a time for peace. They're playing tug of war there. They're pulling and pulling and pulling and seeing who's going to be strong enough to pull that rope. And then after they're done, they're all peaceful because they had a good time. And so there is a time for peace. And all of this is taught by King Solomon and comes from Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. Do you remember who taught us that there is a time for everything? Did you say King Solomon? You're right. It was King Solomon. Well, I have a song I want to teach you that will help you remember all the times for everything. And it goes like this. There is a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to build, a time to break, a time to weep or laugh. There's a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast stones, a time to gather, a time to embrace and not embrace, a time to seek and lose, a time to keep and toss. There is a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to be silent and to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war and peace, a time for everything. There is a time for everything. And God assures us that when we read His word through King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. All right, kiddos, this week I want you practicing the time for everything. See how many you can get memorized. I'm sure you'll have the time to work on it. I love you, kiddos. Mwah! And I will see you next time with another Bible fact video.